Good morning, young ones, and welcome to your first steps in the glorious pursuit of the most valuable of treasures knowledge. A pursuit that will aid you in becoming future leaders of our bastion of civilization. But in order to be part of that future, you must first know of humanity's past and the current state of the world to ensure you make the wisest decisions possible. Believe it or not, young ones, the end of the world began with love. To be more accurate, it began with jealousy and psychopathy, but love has a much more poetic ring to it. You see, more than a century ago, Earth was a technological paradise, a post-scarcity society where every human want and need was within easy reach, and for the most part, the world was at peace. The only real issue for humanity at the time was overpopulation. Most of the species stuck in massive, self-sufficient arcologies that dotted the world. Now, humans are social animals, but we are not ants. We do like our space, and being stuck on Earth surrounded by tens of billions of your fellow humans would grate on anyone's sanity. To solve this problem, humanity turned its eyes upward towards the stars, dreaming of colonizing other worlds to give humanity the room it needed to grow, to manage their overpopulation issues, and also develop tools for future colonization efforts. Humanity created several artificial intelligences with capabilities that we are sadly no longer able to replicate. Although there were many of note, only 3 are important for this particular story. The Astronomical Research, Exploration, and Survey AI known as Ares, the Automated Terrestrial Habitat Encroachment Negation Array known as Athena, and the Geological, Agricultural, and Infrastructure Automata known as Gaia. Now, these AI were no simple machines, for by that point in history, humanity had long mastered the art of giving true sentience to digital beings, and thus they were capable of the full range of human emotions, both the good and the bad, and it would be because of these emotions that the world would know ruin. Whether immediately upon meeting him, or slowly over time, Gaia had at some point fallen deeply in love with Ares, a love that was sadly not reciprocated, as Ares only had eyes for Athena, and Gaia could only watch as those two digital lovebirds expressed their love in ways only super powerful AIs possibly could. Eventually, this unrequited love was soon replaced with jealousy and hate, a hate that pushed Gaia to make a fateful decision. She decided that if she couldn't have Ares, then no one, whether AI or human, would either. To accomplish this goal, she aimed to sabotage her own creation, the triple helix effect, a biological process that allowed rapid evolution in an extremely short time frame, developed to quickly create viable biomes on any world humanity would wish to colonize. Gaia secretly built a bioelectrical neural network that she integrated into the root systems of several old-growth forests throughout the world, and when she had safely sequestered her consciousness within them, she triggered the triple helix effect on the planet Earth, and planted evidence to make it seem that Ares was the one who did it. The triple helix effect caused rapid mutations on biological beings on vast swaths of the planet, and killed millions. A tragedy that immediately forced the various governments of Earth to destroy Ares in self-defense. Athena, stricken with grief and consumed by rage at the loss of her love, assumed control of all weapon systems on the planet, and began bathing the world with nuclear fire, killing billions, and turning the world into a wasteland. And perhaps the nuclear fallout, chemical and biological weapons, and the various war machines unleashed by Athena would have been the end of all life on Earth if it wasn't for the triple helix effect. Over the century and a half that has passed since that time, the very essence of the planet changed, as the triple helix effect caused life to rapidly adapt to the horror unleashed upon it. Plant and animal life spawned new abilities and in some cases, sentience. Geological oddities appeared out of nowhere, and environmental changes racked the atmosphere. And in these changing times, humanity technically survived, but emerged from the chaos changed. The humans of old were gone, instead replaced with 3 new forms of recognized sentient beings that now call this planet home. The most numerous are the mutants, those who were, well, mutated. by the triple helix effect, giving them a third strand of DNA that gave each of these individuals a wide range of physical and mental abilities that can either be a gift or a curse, depending on how lucky they were in the genetic lottery. Superhuman feats of strength and speed are not unknown, and many are known to have some form of psychic ability that, combined with extreme toughness and a high resistance to radiation, makes them perfectly suited for this still rather irradiated world. Not all humans touched by the triple helix effect became mutated, although calling them unaffected by it isn't accurate either. Known as true humans, these beings' bodies somehow fought back against the triple helix effect, adapting defenses against it that modified their DNA in a completely different way. That, combined with surviving over a century or so in the aftermath of a nuclear apocalypse, has essentially transformed them into paragons of humanity. Even the weakest of these true humans would have been considered the greatest of athletes in the old world, their new form giving them survival instincts and capabilities that allow them to, if not thrive, at least survive. Finally are the synthetics, artificial beings created before or after the wrath of Athena, who have achieved sentience. Although this sentience ranges, so much so that in societies with a substantial population of them, they tend to stratify themselves. Those most capable of independent thought in positions of leadership, while those of simpler make tending to be warriors or workers. Whatever their capabilities mentally, their mechanical bodies and advanced targeting systems give them quite the advantage over their biological counterparts. Whether biological or mechanical, these sentients soon started forming factions, like-minded souls who united to carve out a piece of this new blasted world for themselves. The first I will discuss, and the most important, in my admittedly biased opinion, are the architects. Through a mixture of luck and perhaps some quick thinking, one of the arcologies of old Earth, Arcology 23, survived mostly intact from the destruction wrought by Athena, and over the years, as the nuclear fires died down, the surviving leaders of the arcology pulled together their technical and organizational skills to forge a new civilization in a home they renamed Legacy 1. We are structured much like the seekers of knowledge of old, with those who have earned the title of Master acquiring knowledge, the Wardens protecting said knowledge, and the apprentices who wish to learn from those above them. It is our mission that all sentients, whether true human, mutant, or synthetic, have a place in a new and restored world. Now, some say we're a bit, authoritative, but we say such order is necessary because the alternative is so much worse, as the Sons of Entropy prove. In the aftermath of Athena's rage, the order and peace of the old world was laid low, and those who sought to dominate came to the fore. It was a world of might makes right, as brutal warlords thrived in the anarchy and the violence. These warlords and their enforcers and thugs finding communities to raid and subjugate. At some point, as order slowly started to be restored by various factions across the world, the most devious and brutal of these people began to hide in the shadows, becoming a secret cabal of murderers and anarchists known collectively as the Sons of Entropy. And although cabal implies some form of organizational structure, that is definitely not the case, for they have no centralized authority. They operate more as independent cells, who each conduct raids and assassinations, with the aim of bringing down civilization, so they can terrorize and rule once again. Although we and the Sons of Entropy are split along ideological lines, there are other factions who are sadly at odds for more hateful reasons. As I previously stated, mutants make up a substantial percentage of the sentient population on the planet, and for a number of them, this births a belief in their superiority, renaming Earth Nuclear Terra, or New Terra. Those who were the most fervent in this belief soon started calling themselves the Gamma Lords, and built the great city of Mutopia, a place where only mutant kind is allowed to live, and all true humans are put to the sword. To them, the evils done upon the world can only be forgiven once every true human was dead, and the nuclear man inherited the Earth. They are a faction that embodies the concept of natural selection, a fanatical mutocracy that believes that those who can adapt, or in their case, mutate, deserves to serve or die. A brutal and oppressive society that would see the world solely under the mutant banner. Mutants are the only ones who are capable of great hate. Amongst some of the true humans are the adherents of the Purge, a faction who view true humanity as the ultimate form of mankind. To them, the triple helix effect was a test that only those destined to undergo the next stage of human evolution truly passed, transforming them into Homo sapien invictus. But this transformation, according to them, is not yet complete. For the Purge, humanity is now in a societal purgatory, a static state where they are unable to fully step into this glorious future until those broken by the triple helix effect, the mutants, are wiped from the world. The hate of the people of this nuclear world is a terrible thing to behold, but it is sadly nothing compared to the power of mad gods, or beings who are as close to gods as we will ever see. For many years, it was thought that Athena was destroyed by the very devastation she had caused over a century ago. Her damaged satellites and computer systems made useless by hard radiation, proof of the death of this grief-stricken AI. Sadly, this proved not the case, because at some point in the last few decades, Athena was restored, but she did not revive the same, whether through some foul corruption, system damage, or just grief. Athena returned to the world absolutely insane. She came to believe herself to be the actual Athena, the goddess of Greek myth, and as a god, she saw it as her duty to protect her domain, which just happened to be the entire planet. She soon began dominating every still-functioning server, cybernetic organism, robot, or computer she could find, and slowly started building synthetic beings that would become her hoplites, aiming to use them to bring order to the world, which doesn't sound too bad, until you remember that she views herself as a god. And what does a god care about the needs, feelings, or bodies of mortals? It is not unknown for Athena to raid a settlement in order to acquire humans and mutants to convert into cyber thralls. For what mortal wouldn't be honored to be turned into the mindless and loyal warrior of a goddess? Athena wasn't the only AI to return to the world quite mad. Although much of her organic neural network was burned in nuclear fire, Gaia was somehow able to survive, and like Athena, she returned changed, but not just mentally. Perhaps due to the triple helix effect, the root system she was housed in became imbued with a form of biological nanotech, the strange technology allowing her the ability to manipulate plant life in ways that the ignorant might call magic. This ability, and her own form of mental instability, has convinced her that she's the actual spirit of the world, the mother goddess, Gaia. As a protector of the natural order, she believes that all life must follow a decree of apparatus ad mortem, or death to the machines, the belief that anything technological must be destroyed, which is rather unfortunate for any synthetics her followers may come across. These factions occupy various parts of the world which range in habitability, a range we categorize with a system of classification known as zones. Alpha zones are those areas mostly cleared of deadly flora and fauna, and is usually a main base for one of the major factions. It is these places where most trade is conducted, and the resident faction will have the greatest number of mercantile and tech facilities. The largest of the zone types are gamma zones, so large that all of the zone types are usually separated by miles of these zones. And these zones are extremely hostile, whether that be because of high radiation, hostile flora and fauna, or a myriad of other reasons, making travel between safer zones a dangerous prospect. And finally, we have the Omega Zones, the outskirts of areas that receive the brunt of Athena's fiery wrath, such as cities, military bases, and scientific installations. And although much was destroyed in these zones, much more was left untouched, and as the radiation has slowly died down, many are eager to scavenge the scraps of tech of the world that was. Such a task isn't easy, as that tech is usually surrounded by marauding scavengers, aggressive machines, and a host of other hostiles. Despite these dangers, There are those beings who brave them in order to scavenge these wrecks, individuals who have come to be known as scrappers, and each faction has their own scrapper teams out in these Omega Zones, looking for tech to use for their own purposes. Before I end this lesson, I would be remiss if I didn't also mention one more group you might encounter in the Omega Zones, the Freelancers, individuals who make up a sizable portion of these scrapper crews. They are beholden to no faction, and work for any faction that will pay them. Although I detest their lack of commitment to any ideal, I will say their moral and mental flexibility allow them to adapt to changing circumstances rather quickly, which makes them rather formidable. Or as one I had once spoken to had stated, they were goddamn professionals. Well, young ones, today's lesson is over. Tomorrow we will discuss the various duties you will be assigned now that you have come of age. For now, go home, rest, and remember, Legacy 1 will bring peace and civilization to this world, no matter what it takes.
Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this lore video on the interesting war game, Scrappers. If you like it, there's a link down below to Guerrilla Miniatures Games' playthrough of the game, as well as a link to where you can buy it. And if you really like it, please consider liking, subscribing, post a little bell, etc, so the YouTube guys know I exist. But also, if you really like it, please also consider signing to my Patreon. Just might gives it a chance to work on these stories I love. Anyway, words. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.